Rise Up and Run. Stories of deliverance and transformation through the power of Jesus Christ that allows people to rise up from bondage and run in freedom. I'm your host, Janice. Well, it is time for another episode of Rise Up and Run. I'm your host, Janice, and I'm accompanied by my lovely assistant, Bob. Say hi, Bob.
Hello, Janice.
Hi, Bob. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We, Lord willing, will make it to our 35th anniversary on Monday, April 7th.
And what is the day we're recording right now?
And we are recording on April 2nd.
Yeah.
And we're not sure this is going to work. But we said, let's just give it a try.
There may be lots of edits.
And see. Yes, lots of edits. Or we might even turn it off and argue or whatever. But so this
Highly
topic
likely.
then today, what?
Highly likely.
But we thought we'd try it tonight because it's in the evening. Neither of us is grumpy.
Yeah.
I can hear that. Stop doing that.
I just spilled coffee on the couch.
You did?
Now who's grumpy?
Okay, cut.
Oh, well, let's just start off with a bang. Here, wait a minute.
Oh, stop it. That's great.
You know, I saw that meme that said, oh, look, my wife's last nerve. I have to poke it.
Anyway, happy 35 to us.
That's right. Let's start out with pet peeves.
We just, yeah, I think you already did. So anyway, we just thought it'd be fun to just get on and talk about marriage. What do you want? Where you want to start with pet peeves? It seems like a weird space to start.
Well, there are a few.
Have you met me?
Slurping coffee.
I have a million pet peeves, and you maybe have one.
You have an actual condition, and I forget what it's called, but how, like, certain noises, like, physically cause you anxiety?
At times, certain noises almost are, like, painful. It's hard to understand, but it's just weird. Yeah, he's looking up the word for it now, but if like some days they don't bother me as much, but other days it's just, like I said, almost like painful to hear those sounds. But so I have a list of pet peeves, don't I?
It's called misophonia, the condition where specific noises trigger an intense negative emotional reaction, including anxiety, anger, and rage.
Rage. Wow. I wonder if that would stand up in court. I have misophonia, Your Honor.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So let's start at the very beginning, like in The Sound of Music. Start at the very beginning. You don't know that song, do you?
No.
Okay. So most of you have heard our story. We met in, April of 1989. I was working pretrial, which means I'd go up to the jails early in the morning and interview the guys that had been arrested overnight, and gals. And then Bob was working there. So we met in the Blackhawk County Jail sometime in April of that year. Anyway, so he... Okay. Gosh, would you just stop making all these noises? Are you comfortable now?
I'm just reasoning. Shut your misophonia off.
Gosh, I should shut your microphone off. Is there a mute button on here? Anyway, so we met in the Blackhawk County Jail. He was working. I was working too. And one of the guys I was up there to interview, his last name was Wright. And so when Bob opened the elevator door to let me in the jail, I said, I'm here. I'm looking for Mr. Wright. And he says, here I am. Yeah. And I still went out with him.
Pickup lines.
So we had our first date in September of 1989. We're engaged 3 months later in December and married 4 months after that in April. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, what were we even thinking?
We were in love.
I don't know. I like to think I was, or desperate or something. I was 26. That's kind of old for not being married. And you had already been married once and divorced, and you were 23, right, when we got married? So, yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
So we got married after really knowing each other for 7 months. What a bad idea.
Yeah, do not recommend.
So obviously I'd been single all my life. He was pretty newly divorced. You'd gotten divorced in March. You had 2 kids. You adopted your first wife's son, and then you and her had a little girl together.
Yep.
So when we met, they were like not even 2, almost 2 and 4. Almost 4.
Yeah. Well, my ex-wife had custody of the kids, and 2 weeks before we were to get married, she had some sort of alleged mental health episode, and I got custody of the 2 kids. So 2 weeks before we got married. So that was that was hard.
I know
You were really it made our marriage, I mean, right off the bat, even just right when we're getting married, very difficult.
But were you excited though? You were excited to get the kids, right?
Yeah.
And I was
Right.
not.
Well-
And I'm just going to be honest. I was a horrible stepmom, but I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and make it sound like, oh, this was so great. I couldn't wait to be a stepmom, because I could wait and didn't want to have the kids full time. Nothing wrong with the kids. They were sweet, sweet little kids, but I wanted to be a wife. You know, I wanted to be a wife and get to know my husband and be spontaneous and go places and do fun things. And anytime we wanted to do something, we had to find a babysitter. And it was that was one of our many problems.
Well, I think part of it was so unexpected. I mean, you wanted to be, we never had a chance to be newlyweds.
Right.
We never had a chance. So I think when people see us now, I mean, we have fun.
Mm-hmm.
We are blessed with a great life
Mm-hmm.
that we didn't have at the beginning for years.
Years.
We didn't have a very good relationship. It was started off very difficult, and it lasted that way for many years.
And then you had, let's see, at the time we met, you were working 3rd shift, right? Because that's how I met you. Yeah. And then so at that time he was a deputy at the sheriff's department. And then shortly after we got married, right? Or met?
It was in August of...
Was it after we were married or after we met?
After we were married.
Oh, yeah, because we hadn't met yet then, or dated. Yeah, then he got hired by Waterloo as a patrol officer, and you were on what shift? Second shift. So,
yeah, it was in
newly married,
August of 90.
Newly married, 2 kids that I really didn't know. Little kids, 2 and 4. You were on second shift. I was on first shift. Mm-hmm. I got home. You left. I was a mom to these stranger kids, and it was bad. It was bad.
You never got to be a newlywed wife.
Mm-mm. And everybody was like, oh, you must be so thrilled to have the kids. And again, the kids were super. It was nothing against them, but I just wasn't planning on that. And I didn't want it at all. And I felt like, we don't want to degrade or speak poorly about the kid's mom, Bob's first wife. I'm sure that she's a lovely person. But, we're just sharing our story. So we're not trying to badmouth her or anything like that. But we just want people to understand kind of where we came from. Does that sound fair?
Yes. So a foundation of a great marriage should not start out with so much discouragement and resentment. Because that's just not... a loving relationship can't be built on that. I mean, if you're every day being resentful, and I think rightly so. I mean, it's easy for people to say, "Oh, just
love them,
suck it up, Buttercup." No, it's like no. Your dreams were smashed. Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to marry somebody with kids. That was like not the plan. I mean, that was contrary to any plan that I had was like having
Well,
kids.
but
But you were just so hot, I couldn't turn you down.
I wore really good medium shirts.
Schmedium. Schmedium shirts are, how would you say that? Like for people that should wear a medium, but they buy a small so their muscles look bigger. Is that
Pretty much.
pretty
I mean, if
accurate?
you look in the dictionary under solid steel and sex appeal, my picture from back in the day.
Yeah.
is in there.
Okay. Anyway, so not only that, stepkids financially. So I don't know. We got screwed a little bit. So when Bob was married, he had co-signed for a car. And in the divorce, his first wife got the car. She subsequently wrecked it, and with the insurance money, she didn't repair it. So she defaulted on the car. So then Bob had to, because he was a co-signer, pay for this car that no longer existed and that we didn't have. So that was really frustrating. What were some other things that were...
Well, nobody starts out marriage and having 2 kids and new jobs, and you're still young. You know, we were poor. You know, I worked a lot of part-time jobs throughout my career, but you know, there was no child support or anything like that. You know,
Well, there
I
was
think
child support. What was she supposed to pay, like
$40.
$40 a month, and she was behind on that. And
Yeah. Which builds up more resentment. You know,
Yeah.
and anger, and you know.
because I was mad at you because, I mean, it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, but I had such a hard time disassociating my resentment and anger from you because, in my opinion, you caused us a lot to not have money. You caused us to have these 2 kids that I basically was raising by myself at night. You caused us not to have any free time. I'm not saying that my thinking was accurate, but that's just how resentment works.
Just sharing your story.
Yeah.
Testimony here.
And then, so how do we explain this relationship? So Bob's former mother-in-law was the sister of Bob's dad's wife.
My stepmom.
Kind of, yeah. So his ex-mother-in-law would come up with her husband to our house, which was their house. So here I am,
Oh,
like
we forgot about that.
I'm living in her house. I'm raising her kids. I'm hosting her parents, and it was just like a fill-in. It was weird, you guys. It was just weird. I was so angry. I just wanted to be a wife and just have fun together. But I do think that your first wife's husband at that time was horrible.
Horrible to her, yeah.
Horrible to her, made her do things and act certain ways that she probably didn't want to. It was just a very controlling and probably abusive situation. Anyway, where do you want to go from there?
Well, I mean,
How much do
I
we
got
want to moan and complain?
we can move through things pretty quickly here. I think it took about a year and a half. I don't remember. And it's just like, I want to save my marriage. I wanted the kids, but she was healthy again. She'd moved to California. I felt it was time. You know, she wanted the kids back, so they went back to live with her, and they moved to California. So then we had just us, but we also had
a baby.
a baby by then. So.
But I feel, because you didn't want them to go live with her, you were just trying to make me happy. I just feel really bad about that.
But it was the right thing to do. They got to be with their mom, and we got to start to heal our relationship.
Yeah.
But it took a few years. Those first 2 or 3 years were incredibly hard. Why did we stay together?
You know what I always think? Because I am so dang stubborn, and I was not going to go tell my parents that I was getting a divorce after 1, 2. You know, we were both Christians, but we weren't like, I don't want to say like real Christians, but we weren't like praying together and, you know, quoting scripture. And we were like, we fought hard. We didn't fight pretty. And I don't mean like physically or anything, but yeah, we were not, yeah, I don't know, not so great.
Well, we persevered. We didn't even know we were persevering.
Just knew I wasn't going to quit, dang it. But yeah. You know what? Let's just get to some questions.
Yeah.
Let's see, here they are. So, what do you think were the hardest parts of our marriage?
Well, I think there's different seasons of our marriage. There was hardest parts when the kids were little.
When our kids were little?
Kids were little. We over the years we had four kids. I would say Emmy was like.
Why do you act like that's a question? We have 4. What about Emmy?
Well, I feel like she was almost like an only child because she was so far apart from the other kids.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's the hardest parts of our marriage, those seasons when we had the kids because just having kids. And I worked so many part-time jobs because, we made a decision for you. You had an opportunity to go part-time and job share. So you went from 40 hours to 20 hours. And I still had,
You
we
went
had
from
life.
40 to 80.
Yeah, so.
Makes sense.
Well, I don't know. I think God blesses. I think when you have a chance to work like overtimes here and there,
Yeah.
I see that as a blessing for somebody that's working full time.
Were you resentful that you had to work so much? Be honest. You're across the
I don't
room.
know if
I
I
can
was
only throw
resentful
things
more
in.
than I was tired. I almost felt like that was my role. But at the detriment that I wasn't home very often, and I don't want to tear up.
I know we're going to get emotional. I'm telling everybody
I
now.
have so many regrets of all the opportunities I didn't have with my kids because I was working so much. I missed a lot of stuff that they did.
You did.
Being a police officer, how many soccer games did I go to where I wasn't
Probably the ones on nice days.
which were never.
Well, you tried. I mean, you tried as much as you could to be there for the concerts, whether it was like you standing in the back of the room in your uniform or peeking through the window or sitting in your car and watching the soccer games. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I really wish that you hadn't been a cop. I was just thinking that the other day. Not that, oh gosh, I hate it when you drink. I hate it when you drink and I can hear it through my headphones.
No. Oops.
But the hours that you worked, it was awful. Kudos to my LEO wives that are holding the fort down at home. Because that job is like dangerous, number one. The stress is incredible. The stress that the officers experience is unlike anything else, I think. And then the hours and yeah, we tried to have dinner together. We tried to, make it work, but here we go. I don't think our kids know what normal is because it was pretty rare that we were all home together in the evenings or, I don't know. I feel like my kids paid the brunt of that. And I feel bad about that.
I know they'd say, it's okay. I know they would.
Because they don't know anything
different.
But, you see dads that were able to coach their kids' teams, and you just didn't know if you were going to be working second, third, fourth shift, It was just, and then your part-time jobs. And then I was so exhausted because basically I was a single parent so much. And then worrying, is he coming home? What's going on? What's the climate like out there in the street? And if he does, not if he does come home, but when he comes home, he's going to be so stressed out. He's going to want to sleep during the day. I got to keep the kids quiet. I got to, how many times have we had to cancel plans because when you were a detective and we were going to go on a date or something and there was a big thing that went down and you had to go in. I mean, that's just the life. That's just how it is. But I really think that our kids suffered. I hope they don't know it. And they don't listen to my podcast, so bonus. But I do think that they suffered.
So, as hard as what the question was.
Yeah, what was the question?
The hardest season?
Oh, yeah, hardest parts of our marriage.
Yeah, so I think that was for me and for you, I would assume, raising the kids.
Having littles.
Yeah.
So one of the hardest parts was like when we first got married, right? And then when we had our own kids, we had our first 3 kids in 4.5 years.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yep. And then we had Emmy.
And then we had Emmy.
She's extra.
Yeah. So then I think the next hard part would be just a few years ago, going through
Right,
the
so
alcoholism,
the
and
alcoholism.
the cancer and all that fun stuff. So let's see. Biggest regrets.
What's yours?
Marrying you. No, I'm joking. I'm
Biggest
joking.
regret at the moment is that I made coffee and I'm actually drinking it.
We can't drink anything while we're talking. I think I got a lot of big regrets. I regret how I treated your kids, my stepkids, that I wasn't it was like I was so oblivious about what a little 2-year-old and 4-year-old needed. And here they were uprooted from their mom, and she wasn't a bad mom at all. Here they were like uprooted from their mother suddenly and put in with me because you didn't really see a lot of them either. Mm-mm. And I was so out of touch with what they needed as little tiny children. And I was so selfish. And I didn't beat them or anything like that, but I didn't love them like a child should be loved like that. And Kristen and Cody, if you ever listen to this, I am so sorry that I wasn't a better mom for you guys. And another regret would be just how I treated you over the years. Just because I was so resentful and angry, I would talk down to you, and I don't think that I lifted you up like I should have in front of the kids. Kind of made jokes and kind of made you look like a buffoon to them, and I'm so sorry that I did that. Okay, somebody else talk. That would be Anya. Our dog just moaned. Our dog was like, okay, I'll talk.
Well, my biggest regret would be my alcoholism. So I had a problem with alcohol when I was younger. I actually got arrested a couple times as a juvenile for alcohol-related offenses. I always had a problem with alcohol. But when we got married and I became a Christian, I decided I'm not going to drink anymore.
Yeah, we both decided that.
Yeah, but it was a very legalistic, judgy attitude, and that seed was still there. I still wanted to drink. It was more of a resentment that I couldn't drink.
Mm-hmm. We were better than they were.
Yeah, a very horrible attitude about it.
Yeah, I'm not proud of that.
So when I did, I regret picking up that first drink.
What first drink?
I remember where it was.
Which first drink?
I think when it was
like when you were a kid.
No, after we started drinking again. So I think we were at Hickory Hills.
You know what? You were right. We started talking about it at that. What was it called? Bourbon Street. That restaurant with the tree growing in the middle of the restaurant.
So I think we're it was about 40, I suppose. We were.
I think it was. I think we were married like 20. It was our 23rd anniversary. So we were on our way to 50. Me a little closer.
Okay. Probably mid 40s ish.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, I can handle my alcohol now. I'm all grown up, Well,
I know. I thought that we sure could
and
then.
Man, I could not. It's so true about an alcoholic. It's those years of being dormant, and just being a dry drunk. I have learned. Man, you pick up right where you started, or where you left off. I mean, and remember the excuses like, "Oh, I'm only going to drink on."
Oh man, we
Friday
tried to
and
control
Saturday,
it.
and I'm only going to drink wine.
We can have 5 drinks a week. I mean, we were just doing everything to.
The AA Big Book talks all about that exact same thing. Anyway, my biggest regret is the alcoholism. I don't know. Well, you've heard that story on another podcast.
But I want to know, not everybody listens to our podcast, believe it or not. I want to know what you thought your alcoholism did to me. Because you know, you've said before too that alcohol is so selfish.
Yeah.
You
well, I
know?
realize now what it did to you, but
I
at the time,
I don't think you do. You know, when I go to your AA meetings, everyone's talking about, oh, I was this and I was miserable. And I feel like saying, what about your partners? It just seems like I just cannot explain to you what that was like to go from a wonderful, normal marriage to constant betrayal.
lies, deception.
Lies.
I remember you saying,
Lies
you lie
everywhere.
so easily.
It was like I didn't know what I was going to wake up to. I didn't know what I was going to go to bed to. I just knew that somewhere in the day we were going to get in a big fight about your drinking, and you it was like you were crazy, man. You were like you had no idea. I don't know. I felt like I was supervising you on probation. I still have that Alka-Seltzer. I should go
She
get it.
bought me
I
a
should
lie
try
detector
to sell
in
it.
the form of a PPT.
But it was awful. And I don't think, and I've never told you that you fully realized the misery that I was going through. And then when I got cancer,
Well, when you're talking about, this is one of my biggest regrets because I remember, I mean, over the years, we taught marriage studies, we counseled people.
premarital counseling.
Yeah, you know. And one of my life verses for marriage is Ephesians 5:25 and following. And I really blew the end of this. I blew the whole thing up. I mean, ruined this for us for many years. Because I tried to live by this. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Oh, again, this is Ephesians 5:25 and following. To make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. I didn't present you to God as a radiant church without stain. I caused stains and wrinkles. I caused the pain, the outburst. You know, I caused those, and I didn't recognize that then, right? And how can you present yourself to him as a radiant church when I'm, you know, crushing your spirit? But I was so selfish. I didn't love myself because
Well, you
of who I
kind of
became.
did.
No,
You
I didn't.
love me very well.
Well,
I remember you standing over me that night just going, this is your fault. You're why I drink. I just felt beat up. Never physically, obviously, but just I never knew what the day was going to hold or what the night was going to hold or if you were going to get picked up for drunk driving. And I was so mad that here you are, a cop that has worked how many traffic fatalities for drunk driving, and then you were out there driving. So selfish, so stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, I better calm down because it's yeah. And then I get cancer.
Yep, right in the depths of my alcoholism. I was not there for you.
That was hard.
That was beyond. Tell us that story a little bit.
What story?
How do you feel about that?
About my cancer or what?
About being alone?
Oh,
Or
it
did we
was
talk
horrible.
about that on another episode?
I'm sure we did. You know, it's just like you find out you get cancer and your husband is an alcoholic, and you know, I had partitioned you off from so many areas of my life, and there was no way I was letting you back into that one. And you would say, I'll go with you to your appointments. And I thought, no, you will not, because I don't need a drunk. I don't know. I just didn't want you to kind of like weave your way back into my life and be there for part of the time and not there for the rest of it. You know, it was weird. So I had girlfriends that would offer to go with me to my appointments and stuff, but I just fought it all by myself. Being God, go God. But, you know, it's just those times like now that make you cry. That God just, you see him in his fullness, in his glory, and you see him at, like, when things are going well, you don't see him like that. I don't. It's when that you just don't have anything else that he just shows up and shows out and rescues you, not necessarily taking you out of the problem, but walking with you and helping you to deal with it.
You went through that alone.
I did.
So.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to blow my nose without doing it into the microphone. Let's give you another topic there. What would you have done differently?
About what we already talked about?
Anything.
Well, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have picked up that first drink.
Is there anything else aside from the things we've already talked about?
What would I have done differently? I don't know. I feel like... I don't know.
Okay, I can say something.
Yeah, you say something.
I feel like we're not different than... Maybe we are, though. What if we're way different than everybody else and I just think we're normal? Do you think that most people, when they get married, just kind of stumble around, like, trying to find the right way to do things? Or do people go in going, this is how this works and this is how this works? I just felt like trial and error was very popular in our marriage.
I believe most marriages, people go with expectations.
Yeah. High expectations.
Yeah. Well, and that might be based on a lot of factors, their own upbringing, what culture tells them.
The movies, back in our day, the soap operas, do they still even have soap operas? I don't know. Let's not know.
But expectations, this is what the wife should do. This is what the husband should do. And when those expectations aren't met, then the resentments build up. And it's like, why do you have those expectations in the first place?
You've always talked about that. Like when I've been disappointed with something, not necessarily just in our marriage, but you've always been like, your expectations were too high, that you're upset because of unmet expectations. And, that's totally true.
I think one of the greatest things I've learned is, I was talking about communication, but I mean, really honest communication. If I can say anything, my alcoholism and my recovery has given me is to really look at resentments. Resentments are fatal to an alcoholic, is to say, why am I feeling resentful? Mm-hmm. And to just talk about it and let go of that resentment or figure out why I'm feeling, and just have an open, honest discussion about it.
With who, though?
With you.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe somebody else.
If you have a resentment against somebody else to,
Oh, I see. So if your resentment is against me, to share that.
Right.
And that's one thing that I've loved about you is that I could tell you whatever I was feeling. I never felt like I had to candy coat or maybe I should have been better at that. I don't know. But you were always so willing to at least hear what I had to say. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that a lot. And then we were doing that one marriage study. Do you remember that? You remember. And I found out that you weren't being honest with me about your feelings. And that really made me mad. It was like, oh, for anything else, don't make Janice mad. Mm-hmm. It was like, I was really hurt by that because I felt like, really? Is it that bad when I get mad? I don't know, but he was, it's 9 on the Enneagram. But just like he couldn't bear, he doesn't like conflict, which is really odd for a cop. That just makes no sense. It's a very curious situation.
Well, it was different when I was working. When I got home, I didn't want conflict. I dealt with everybody's conflict all day long.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what's so funny is like you just want to be the nice guy, but you're a cop and throw people on the ground and arrest them. And, it's just seems like you live in two little different worlds. Okay, I guess we're done with that topic. Anything else you want to say?
Well, what? We'll have to edit some of this out, Jan, but
maybe.
What did you just last say about Resentments. I was talking about resentments, and then you started talking.
I don't know. I wasn't listening. You know what? We had a couple questions that people gave us on Facebook.
John gave us a question.
Well, just a minute. So did some other people here. You're just trying to... Oh, I can hear you drinking.
I know, I love it. That coffee's good.
Makes one of us. Okay, just a minute. Say something while I'm scrolling through looking for...
Are we going to talk about, like, how we, like, perseverance or anything, or...
We can talk about whatever you want. Okay, hold on a minute. We're getting... Oh, stop it! I can hear you itch your beard.
Just talk about the fun things we're doing now. Like
We don't have any
newlyweds.
fun things.
Or like newlyweds now.
Okay, just a minute here. I want to find this thing. Okay, here people asked. David says, what about dirty houses, bickering, all the ugly stuff that we get through by way of forgiveness and love? Talk about that. That'll be your topic.
I think that comes back to the expectations. Does somebody expect... Do I expect you to clean the house?
Yes.
So not true. Where's my lie detector?
I remember he used to say, it's just so cluttered. It's so cluttered. It's so cluttered. And then we went to somebody's house that was cluttered. And
I was like, our house is pretty dang
that was
clean.
insulting to me. That, oh, yeah, this house is so cluttered. That I was really insulted by that.
I was probably really young and dumb back then.
Yes, dumb anyway. Young? I don't know.
Well, the bickering, I think that comes back to the foundation of expectations and communication. You know? And I mean, there's some respect there too. I mean, I think we really found a good groove of, you know, you don't mind doing, let's say for instance, doing the laundry, or I'm not allowed to load the dishwasher.
No.
Because
Or
apparently
laundry.
it's like a game of Tetris, and you got to squeeze.
What am I, a
every
Norwegian
fork and
architect or
knife.
something?
That's
in here?
right.
Well, and bickering, I feel like that's a symptom of something bigger. Mm-hmm. And that's communication. I don't know what else to say about that, but here was a question that says, what do you do when your spouse does things that you know, that they know bother you? Like leaving dirty clothes on the floor, not rinsing their plate, leaving a vehicle on empty after they've been driving it all week. What do you think?
I think you just have to have a good conversation about it. And I've always said, if it's important to your spouse, it should be important to you. If it's important to your spouse, you pick your stupid dirty clothes off the floor, take 2 seconds and do it. I mean, it's easy. It's an easy fix to not be bickering. Maybe, you know, maybe you have a pride issue. It's like, I don't have to pick up my clothes, you know. But you know what? Your spouse would like that.
Do you feel like it's a passive-aggressive movement sometimes where they're like, oh, I know this really makes my spouse upset, so I'm going to do this, and...
Maybe I like to see her upset or him upset.
Yeah,
you know,
paybacks.
But that's a pride thing. That's an ego thing. That's not in the context of loving each other.
Yeah. There's something underlying all of that, I think. What about nagging? I am a master nagger. But go ahead, because you have thoughts on this.
This is a dangerous topic.
I feel like this is a setup for you.
Nagging. I don't feel like you nag like you used to.
You don't? Okay, I'll take it.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, you know, you say what's on your mind. You've never had a problem not saying what's on your mind.
I can't. I would implode or explode, one of the two. I would plode.
But maybe I've gotten better at not, you know, maybe it comes down to that Ephesians verse I just talked about too. You know, am I another AA? I've learned so much in AA.
You are an AA book. I like that. I'd rather have you that
There's a lot
than
of
drunk.
times I go to meetings and people are like, I'm glad. I mean, they've changed their lives so much, and for years and years and years, and their lives are way better than they were when they were just like a dry drunk. It's like I've learned so much about the principles of AA, which is they're biblical principles.
Mm-hmm.
About Where was I going? We'll have to cut
I
this
have no
part out.
idea. We're talking about nagging and forgetfulness.
Gosh, I lost my train of thought about.
Well, should we come
Oh,
back?
I know what it was.
Oh,
It's about doing the right thing, but what is my responsibility? That's what I'm trying to get to. What part am I playing in? Let's say you're nagging. You know, people say we shouldn't nag your wife. What's my responsibility in it? Are you nagging me because like whatever, the clothes on the floor, the dirty dishes, whatever,
right.
whatever it is that something that bothers you? What is my responsibility and my role in it? Why am I, and then I need to reflect on like, why am I not doing those things?
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot of that is just not in our relationship necessarily, but just one way they're going to get you. You know, you're upset about something. You don't want me to lay my clothes on the floor? I'm laying my clothes on the floor. Just those little side-handed
yeah,
things.
and you can rationalize it. Well, that's the way I've always done it. It's not hurting anybody. And, well, apparently it is hurting somebody. It's causing that resentment that, you know, it's not a peaceful environment. And my responsibility would be
Yeah.
to help. I mean, big deal. To grow up, do it.
I like that. Grow up and do it. Yes. This is what Rachel said. Marriage is so much forgiveness, mercy, understanding, pulling your weight and sometimes theirs. It's definitely not a 50-50. It's 100-100.
Absolutely.
And there'll be times when you do most of the stuff because I'm sick or weak or tired or whatever, and vice versa. So it isn't like a scorekeeper, like I did this, so now it's your turn to do this. We're just all going to try our best all the time, knowing that sometimes I'll be working a little harder and sometimes you'll be working a little harder. And it all works out in the end, hopefully.
Amen.
And then John, our buddy John Martin. Hi, John. He said, what?
Well, he listens to all your podcasts.
I know. He's like my biggest fan. I love John. What about each other did you find likable in the beginning and is still true today? Oh, jeez.
Right there. I wish we were doing a video. I'm flexing right now.
Okay, you better guess again.
Oh, come on. I looked good in that uniform.
Well, you did, but he said, and still is true today.
Oh. Well.
My husband doesn't work out. He's an indoor boy. I'll do it. What I loved about you early on was just your kindness and your gentleness. And you were that way with your kids and me and my dad. You know, people just like you. You're just a good guy, usually.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And you...
Hey.
Well, I mean, obviously you're gorgeous. I really outkicked my coverage. I think one of the things I fell in love with is just your sense of humor. You're funny. You got that from your mother. That's where our daughter Jenna is hilarious. And she takes after you also in that area. But just funny, and you have fun. But now I see you're just you're strong. You're motivated. You'd like trying new things.
I do. I love it.
I can't keep up.
Like our hike. Anyway, go ahead.
But you love people. I mean, God. I mean, look at now. You know, you started the Rise. God put that in your heart to start Rise Up, and you just posted that today. It's a 2-year anniversary of Rise Up. You have changed hundreds of lives. I mean, generations. Okay. Because you followed. You had an obedient heart. God put it in your heart to start this men's correctional ministry. You just needed a fertile ground for it. You had the seed, and Hope City came along for the fertile ground and the people to do it, and the community of like-minded. And man, you're going to have a lot of crowns in heaven, man. I'm telling you that, Janice.
Well, don't
Your heart
take the
is
credit
amazing.
for it, because I know that I just feel honored that God would choose to use me like that. But thank you for the acknowledgement. But
But I'm just,
I just love it. I love those guys.
I'm blessed that you're my wife.
Thanks. Same,
Big
babe.
time.
Okay, let's get on some topics here. Money. How do we deal with money?
Well, in the beginning, that was all you because I was the spender and you were the saver. How would you tell this? Tell the couch story if you got to tell the couch story.
Okay, so when I met Bob, he was newly divorced. Like, I think you got married. You got divorced in March, and I met you in April. So he had a couch. I think you had a dining room table and chairs. He had an 8-inch black and white TV on milk crates. Okay. And I didn't marry him for his money.
Nope.
So he had this couch that he just bought at Sears.
Sears.
And he said, our dog is making noises. And he said, this couch is only $15 a month. He was so proud of that. And then after we got married, I got the bill for it. And of that 15, 11 was going to interest. And I was like, you're going to pay for this couch after we've been married 10 years.
I had no concept of money.
No, I mean, 15 a month.
I looked at the bottom line on the month.
You didn't really look at the bottom line. You looked at... Anyway, so, yeah, we were kind of raised in different... Well, I don't know. I feel like, was your mom, like, with money like you were? Like...
I think so.
You think so? Well, she was married too.
Yeah.
But my dad was very thrifty, like to a fault. Well, let's just leave it right there.
Oh, I could tell stories.
I know. I could tell stories too.
Do you want to hear about dental floss?
Nope. So...
It can be reused many times, I'll tell you that.
Okay. You used my dental floss the other night.
Oh, I didn't know it was yours.
Yes, you did, because I said, that's mine. I've used it. And you're like, meh. Anyway, so leave my dad alone. Anyway. Okay. So he was, so we were like different areas of the spectrum. Before we got married, I paid like I saved half of every paycheck. Did you know that?
No.
And you didn't. But you were, you had kids and a wife and all that fun stuff. But the nice thing was that you were able to recognize that you wanted to handle money the way that I did. And so you were very trainable or coachable. You were open to that. I think it would have been really hard if you still wanted to just, go your crazy spendy way. And that causes conflict for people. But I'm glad that we didn't have to deal with that conflict. Well, but lots of others.
Right. One thing I think of now, especially when I hear people in this culture, is like, even if they're married, they have two separate accounts. Like, no, you're married. One bank account. You're one. That's, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is, it's like we're together. Mm-hmm. And that's such a big aspect of life, financial. And if you keep that separate, there's always going to be that wedge of this is my money and this is your money. And it's a me versus you thing.
It's a power thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the best classes we took was Financial Peace with Dave Ramsey's course.
Yeah.
And learn to budget.
Yeah.
Because you can budget. I mean, you set a budget and you stick to it. And you start paying off your debts. You follow the plan. And you be disciplined. And you sacrifice. It gets better, and it can get better quickly.
And the thing that I love about it, and I know Dave Ramsey always talked about that too, was like, so we've been debt free. Are we debt free? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for like several years. Mm-hmm. It is so freeing, and not only so we can like accumulate more stuff, but so we can help send a friend's daughter to church camp, or we can give money away to people. And I always thought, well, that doesn't sound like that much fun. But it is. Just knowing that, we have plenty for ourselves. And just to be able to help somebody, like some of the Rise Up guys will help them buy some stuff to set their apartment up. And it's just so...
It's fun.
It is fun. And it just feels good. I mean, that's why we get more money, is not so we can get more things, but so we can give more away to other people.
What do we have that we haven't been given?
What do we have that we haven't been given? I will always live by that.
It's not ours to cling on to.
No, it's not. That's good. How about in-laws? How did we deal with in-laws?
Well, I think, well, I mean, it was not easy at first for you with my in-laws.
Oh, I forgot about your dad. Go ahead,
but
talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I came from a different culture than Janice. I grew up in southern Iowa. It was redneck, not hillbilly. There's a difference. We all know that.
I don't know that.
Yeah, there's a difference between rednecks and hillbillies.
Okay.
We were rednecks. And you were polypurebred from northern
Oh, I was
Iowa.
not polypurebred.
Norwegian.
I was not expecting your dad. That wasn't my stomach. That was our German Shepherd.
She talks like
moaning.
that all the time.
No, your dad was just. I wasn't used to that kind of language. Crudeness, vulgarity, and the things that he would say to me were like, "Oh, wow." And he would send very raunchy jokes to you and was just like very, very inappropriate.
I cut him off of that quickly.
You did. I appreciated that a lot. You kind of stood up for us and our beliefs, and I don't think he knew better.
That's just how he lived.
Yeah, I don't think he was trying to be. That was just who he was.
That was how he socialized.
Yeah, and so I didn't hold that against him. But man, I'm really glad you nipped that in the bud because that was awkward and kind of gross.
And my in-laws, I loved your parents.
They loved you.
Your mom, gosh, I miss her. She was the funniest, hard-working woman. I tell you what, just the quirky things. Okay, her dad was so frugal.
My dad, not my mom's dad.
Oh, yeah, Janice's dad. That he built the house you grew up. You lived, see, I moved around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had divorce and, our side, divorce. Your family, no divorce. Say, you lived in the same house your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad built that house in, what, 1955?
Paid cash.
$5,000. He had how many?
Was it $5,000?
Yeah, and he had. Okay, so how many kids did you have? Tell that story.
At that time that he built it, he had 3 kids, and he wanted 2 bedrooms. And my mom was able to talk him into 3. Well, they went on to have 6 kids, and we could take 3-minute showers. This sounds like a prison camp or something when they talk about it. What else? He used his dental floss over.
I'm thinking when I was talking about your mom, that poor woman did the sliding door, 2 sliding doors to the kitchen and the hallway out to the living room. And in the summer, he'd have the window AC going, and it was like
in the living room,
freezing in the living room and 110 degrees in the kitchen because he thought.
I don't know what he thought.
He didn't want the heat from the kitchen coming in there because it would waste more energy. So your mom would be slaving away out in the kitchen.
My mom was such a sweet lady.
So hot.
I can't believe oh man, Saturday. It'll be 25 years that she's been gone.
Yeah, she died.
That was a hard time too. Talk about that period in her marriage.
Oh.
The year 2000.
So 2000, my dad died by suicide on February 28th. And 6 weeks later, your mom died of leukemia that she fought for 3 years.
It was so weird, you guys. She fought that for 3.5 years. And it was weird. Bob's dad had shot himself in the head with Bob's old service weapon. And my mom worked so hard to try to live. Mm-hmm. And your dad took his own life. I mean, it was just... And then 6 weeks after Mom died, my grandpa died. So my dad lost his wife and his dad in 6 weeks.
Yeah, so your mom died on April 5th.
Yeah.
We had our 10th anniversary.
Oh my gosh, I just feel like we just sound miserable, don't we? It's like, wow.
Let's talk about some fun things in a minute.
We will.
We spent our 10th anniversary at your mom's visitation.
That was hard. That was a hard year.
Yeah. So, but God is good. We could do a lot closer then. Yeah, you got a glimpse of my side of the family at my dad's visitation and the people that I grew up with.
Yeah,
and how
that was
kind.
good.
I I mean,
They loved each other.
they loved each other. They helped each other, loyal to each other. And they were honest with each other, you know. You had a problem with somebody, you told them about it. You go out and have
Okay, well, let's talk about Jeff.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, this is a weird story, everybody. So at Bob's dad's funeral, Bob's dad had been married, 5 times? And
probably
had Lynn, Bob's sister, and then Bob. And so we were at Bob's dad's funeral, and me and Lynn, Bob's sister, were sitting in a room talking, and this woman came in, and she said, "He's here, you know." And we just kind of, "He's here, you know, and he looks just like him." And we thought, oh, okay. We had no idea what she was talking about. So after the funeral, I asked his dad's wife, who I told her about that. She goes, "Oh, that must have been Jeff's wife." And I was like, "Who's Jeff?" And she said, "Well, that's Bob's brother." And I was like, "What?" So Bob had a half brother that we didn't know about. And I didn't know what, because people had told me, "Oh, Bob knows. Everybody knows about Jeff. Bob knows about Jeff." And we were married 10 years at that point. And I thought, well, okay, he must know. But then, you know, Bob's dad, I don't want to say he was like a ne'er-do-well, but he was just not a good dad. You know, he was, I don't know how to describe it. So here Bob was trying to look for things to kind of redeem his dad, you know, some good things about his dad. He found a life insurance policy that he'd had, and so he called, and he'd only made one payment on it. And I was just like, well, if he knows, I'm not going to bring this up. And I also thought, well, if he doesn't know, I definitely don't want to just keep adding fuel to the fire and give him more reasons to hate his dad. So I didn't mention anything until like 10 years later. I said, "Do you know you have a brother?" He didn't know. And so we met Jeff and his wife and kids, and a beautiful family. Just wonderful. He also was in law enforcement. He also had 4 kids. I mean, it was just kind of weird. Nice
feel
man.
awful for him because he thought I knew all this time and was just shunning him.
Yeah, that we didn't speak to him at the funeral. He thought that he had sat in the back. He wasn't in your dad's obituary.
I feel awful about all that.
I do
I
too.
had no idea. But he thought I knew.
Yeah.
But we converse and we have as good as relationship we can, just, you know, far away, and he's still working. And
yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man, and we are thrilled to have him in our family. Yeah, that was a hard year too. What else do you want to talk about?
What was that last question? I feel like we go off on rabbit trails.
In-laws. We talked about in-laws.
Oh, so I was talking about your mom.
Uh-huh.
And just wonderful sense of humor. I just remember when she was having those bad days and she'd have bad periods and those good, some of those good days.
When she was doing her leukemia.
And I remember one of the last times I talked to her, I was down in the laundry room at our old house on Fairlane, and then she'd, just that bright, I picked up, I'm like, "Hello?" And she's like, "Hello, Bob," you know, just bright. It's like, "Oh, Dorothy, it's so good to hear you," you know.
Yeah.
With energy.
She definitely had her... For 3.5 years, she fought leukemia, and some days she'd be like, get to the hospital, and other days she'd be like rearranging the furniture in the living room. You know, it was a weird disease, and just to be able to spend those last few, you know, days with her was good.
I'm just picturing her giving my old canine Falco a ham bone and trying to wrestle it away from him.
She was downstairs in the basement with her mop or broom trying to get this ham bone out of the clutches of a big fat German Shepherd police canine. Oh, Mom.
Oh, and then there was your dad.
My dad. Let's talk about your family.
Your dad would make these.
Oh my gosh,
he had
Dad.
cattle and
He's a
hogs,
farmer.
and he would, you know, butcher their own cattle, and his steaks. I've never had a better steak. I mean, they were, I want to say 3 inches thick, but that's probably too big. They were probably 2.
That would be a roast.
And they were the size of a platter. They were the best steaks ever, and he would just cook them out there and just take a stick of butter and melt it on and flip it over.
And they would literally cover
Oh
the
my
whole
gosh,
plate, and
just
you'd be like,
melt.
"What are we having for sides?"
It's like,
Is that really? We need a
sides.
side dish?
and he would just stare and look at me and shake his head while I ate a steak. And
You
then-
ate two.
I know,
That's
they
what
were
he
so
really.
good.
I know. There goes our arteries.
Oh.
So we had a little conflict. You know, the nice thing about our in-laws is none of them made us feel like you have to come here for Thanksgiving or you have to choose us over for Christmas or anything. So we had pretty good.
And now we still have my mom and stepdad, and
Yeah.
you've gone down with our camper van and parked in their yard and
I
had a
think I
little
have my own
party.
apartment or something.
So,
When were you the most proud of your spouse?
oh, well, now a couple things for me. For you is like fighting your breast cancer, winning that, and knowing that you did it alone, which we already talked about.
Single-handedly.
Well, you didn't have a spouse there with you. Anyway, we've covered
Yes,
that.
we've passed
Number
that.
2, you're just on fire for everything. Okay, so you're a few years ago, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to get my broker's license. I want to go skydiving. I want to
I
go.
haven't done that.
I mean, you just are like, oh, I'm going to ride 60 miles on my birthday and 61 I mean, and you're just like, go, 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 and I can't keep up.
I just feel like I want to live until I die. You know, I feel like statistically, we are on the last quarter of our lives. I got lots of things to do, you know, and I just don't want to not experience all the things that life has for me. I just can't. It's like, what's next? I
And
have
I'm like
something in the works, but I haven't told many people about that. So we'll see how that works.
Oh, I just can't keep up. I'm like a boat anchor.
Yeah, kind of you are. But you're my boat anchor.
So I'm proud of your energy.
Thank you.
I'm proud of your love of the Lord. That you're just have such a passion for people. You go to Anamosa about twice a week to do groups and minister to the men there and
I'm
rise
like my
up.
little prisoners.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's nice to be able to know for sure what God made you for. You know, there's that purpose in your life that yeah. It's good to know that.
Okay, do me.
I am very proud of you for the bravery that you've shown throughout your 35 years in law enforcement and all the people that you've saved and you know, even the unswarthy people you still treat with respect and dignity. And I'm just proud of how brave you were through all those times and all the things that you've seen throughout your career that have forever changed you. And some you can't even talk about.
Some are very hard.
Yeah. And we know which ones those are, but
I always tried to be kind to people. They were having a bad day sitting in the back of a police car.
yeah.
Except for Stephen, if you're listening, like I told you, we would have had a great time. If you were in the back of my car, we would have laughed and laughed all the way to jail.
Oh, I love Steven. I wish he was mine. Anyway, let's see. So we talked about what advice would you give to like other people? What got us through all the crap?
Well, years ago we did we did the book study, and then we started teaching counseling. It's called Sacred Marriage.
Oh, by Gary
Gary
Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a believer, if you want to read a good foundational book on marriage, Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas, and one of the chapters in that is called Sacred Perseverance, or Holy, is it Sacred or Holy Perseverance?
I think everything was sacred something.
Perseverance. I think God gave us a spirit that we're going to persevere through this and come out better on the other end by being obedient, not giving up. I think I realized, especially after being divorced early in my life, that no matter what relationship I was in, it was going to be hard. And why, move on to it? It's like, well, this is hard. I'm going to give up. Well, then that relationship's hard. I saw that in my dad.
Yeah.
He was, had a relationship and then divorced, or, this and that. And the common denominator is me. or you. You know, it's two people not giving up with the greater good of glorifying God through it in the end and persevering. And I told you the other day, it's like I want my life, your life, our marriage. I think back, if people would look back at their wedding day, reread your wedding vows. Did you mean it? Did you really mean your wedding vows when you're ready to sign those divorce papers? And then are you going to get married again and say those same vows again and then just give up?
That's good.
We are so intertwined. Say a cord of three strands is not easily broken. I want people to see us as like, well, it's not Bob is separate and Janice is separate. It's like we're a unit. I don't see my life without you, and I hope you don't see your life without me. We're so intertwined. Yeah, we do separate things. You know, we have our own interests and lives and stuff like that. You're a man. You're a man. That was
Not
a
a
Freudian.
man.
I'm a man. You're
Oh,
a woman.
man. You're sweet.
That we're not separate. You know, we're a one unit. And we don't give up. We persevere and we're obedient to the word. But I always go back to that. Go back and look at your wedding vows. I promised to love you for better, for worse, for sicker, for poor. You know,
Sickness and health, rich or poor.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's good.
And those vows should mean the exact same thing today as they did 35 years ago.
Because what is the point of repeating the vows over and over again? So what do you do? Like when, we know some couples who one really wants to work on it and the other one just doesn't have that same passion. What do you do?
Pray.
Pray.
Pray for their heart to change. Soften.
So hard, because I feel like we've got such a good marriage, and when you see some other people that it just seems like, oh, just pray. It just seems such a pat answer.
Well,
but it's a good answer, but I think people want a little more to do with it,
Well, we've been going through that marriage class, MC at church, and just of recent things that come to mind are, or in the freedom group too, it's a spiritual battle. It's, our battle's not against flesh and blood, but it's the spirits and principalities, and there's a spiritual battle going on in somebody's life. One person's heart or nothing, And also, like the guy said, if somebody's wandering and the grass is always greener, the grass appears greener on the other side of the fence, start taking care of your own lawn. Water your own grass,
And forgiveness
and there's a fence there. Remember? The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. Well, there's a fence. There's a barrier there. It's just, like you talked about, like, there's so many steps. There's only so many sin steps before you get farther down the road and you're too far gone. So that's what I would suggest is...
Well, and I think it's determination, too, to just come hell or high water, we are staying together.
Yep.
We made that promise. And it's, man, even through all the alcoholism and the cancer and stuff, I never thought I was going to divorce you. But I thought I was going to leave you for a while, just until we could get things straight. It needed to be a safe place for you. Yeah, and that's not to say like, oh, look how great we are. We went through a really hard time and we still got, stayed together. Yay us. It's, you just have to make that decision, and sometimes the other person doesn't give back anything. Yeah. But you still have to just keep going, and forgiveness is so key in marriage. How many times do we forgive each other? A lot, over and over again. But the commitment to not give up is vital. It's like, I'll come back to the marriage vows again, for better, for worse. People just want to do for the better. Yeah. They just want to do for the health. Or I'm not happy. And that premise of that book that you talked about was, what if marriage was made to make you not just to make you happy, but to make you holy.
Yep.
So happiness isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And I think for sure that it's through the hard times, the hard times, that God is displaying his glory the most, and that you just feel him.
But on the other side of that, there are such good times.
We are having the time of our life.
Hey,
sorry, kids.
We're like newlyweds now.
We love being empty nesters. I thought I'd be up in Emmy's bed in the fetal position crying, and I'm just having such a good time. And I like my kids and everything, but this is fun. We're at a great time in our marriage, and I hope we have a little bit longer, or a lot bit longer, to hang out together and do fun things.
Yeah. We got our camper van ready to rule the world.
Here we go. Utah's up next, I think.
I really want to get cruise control put on that van, though.
So we'll take donations for cruise control, $1,800. Maybe we can get sponsors.
Who buys a van without cruise control?
Us. So here we are, almost 35 years together. I had a dream last night or the night before that you left me, and you didn't want anything to do with me because you were tired of me treating you poorly. And I like having those dreams every now and then. It kind of keeps me on my toes and just appreciate you more. But I am head over heels for you, mister. And my life is so much better because you're in it.
How do I follow that up?
With a prayer. You want to pray us out?
I would love to. Father, I'm so grateful for this beautiful woman sitting across from me and the life you've given us.
Mm-hmm.
Just look back through your word. There's not a lot of easy times in the Bible, but the victory is in those that are obedient and persevere and trust in you and have faith that all things worked together for your good and your glory. I pray that in our marriage. I pray that in the marriages and relationships of anybody that's listening to this, that if you're struggling or you're finding it hard to have hope in your relationship, your marriage, the season of life you're in, don't give up.
Mm-mm.
Just turn to him. Turn to God. Just ask for his blessing and signs of hope and encouragement. And if you don't see those signs now, to trust that they will come. I pray that our marriage and the struggles and the life that we've had will be an encouragement to somebody, even one person, if that's what it takes to not give up. And yeah, we're just so blessed and thankful for how you have given us this life together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.